Stage 5 of the Santos Tour Down Under, the penultimate day of this World Tour race, and it was to be the toughest race so far. From McLaren Vale over to Wollonga Hill, 151.5 kilometres and 2 climbs of the famous Wollonga Hill. The riders taking the start from Leon Bignell, the Minister of Tourism and Sport, as he waves them on the way from McLaren Vale.
It was a stage that everybody talks about every year. It's the real queen stage, Le Taparena as they say in Spanish, and as is normally the case, very quickly after the start, a small breakaway got clear.
It would rapidly build to 6 riders though, with Nuno Bico of Portugal, Zach Dempster and Scott Bowden of Uni SA, Thomas de Gent from Belgium Lotto, and the man who was attacking. But there was a crash soon after the start and Nuno Bico was badly knocked around. The race doctor keeping an eye on him as he rejoined the race.
Well, the race medic's doing a fantastic job to keep him in the race, but he ended up having bandages on both elbows.
And immediately after the finish would be off to hospital for a checkup. Also in the breakaway was Fumi Beppu of Japan in the red jersey there on the right hand side, Thomas de Gent at the back, number 33. Down through Snapper Point where there was a sprint after 63 kilometres. It wasn't really a sprint because the leaders had no interest in the interim sprint points. It was taken out by Beppu of Japan.
Yeah, 7 riders in the breakaway, 2 riders from Team Uni SA, and at this point the gap over the main field had stretched up to its maximum point of around about 5 minutes, but the main field started to react.
Yes, a lap later, 103 kilometres covered, and the same scenario at the front, but the field were much closer now, just over 3.5 minutes behind. Thomas de Gent moved out of the way, having crossed the line in Snapper Point in first place. But the main aim of this day was how good would they climb Wollonga Hill. Massive crowd in Wollonga as they went up the hill for the first time, and immediately dropping off the back was Beppu of Japan.
Yes, when they started the climb for the penultimate time, their advantage over the main field was 1 minute and 52 seconds, and once they got onto the steeper gradients, Thomas de Gent applied some pressure.
De Gent, a king of the mountains in this race last year, was driving at the front and breaking up the breakaway, while the main field was being led by Bahrain Merida. The main reason of the riders up front was for the rider in the white jersey, the Subaru King of the Mountains leader here, Nicholas Delamy, to try and get the King of the Mountains. Now, normally in the past, the finishing line was right here, and De Gent was being the gentleman and said, go and take the points, this will give you the title, because De Gent hadn't scored. But in fact, it was moved to the finishing line just around the corner, and De Gent didn't know. So he put in an attack and innocently took the maximum point. But it didn't matter at all, because tomorrow Delany will be claimed the King of the Mountains.
Yes, but what a coincidence, as in cycling happens so many times, that Thomas de Gent was the winner of the Subaru King of the Mountains just 12 months ago with the breakaway on this very stage too.
This was a big gamble now by Thomas de Gent as temperatures hit 32, but it was almost a cold day compared with the last 2 days when temperatures went over 44 degrees.
Well, plunging away from the high spot, he touched speeds of 90 kilometres an hour downhill, with the main field starting to close in upon him.
Then the action started as the main field hit the slopes for the first time. They were riding just over a minute behind the leaders. This was now showdown time for the riders as they raced up towards the line itself.
Rowan Dennis from BMC Racing and teammate of Richie Porte came to the front to stamp out a really difficult pace, hoping to set something up for his teammate Richie Porte later on. But the pace was too high for the overnight leader and the world champion Peter Sagan, wearing number 11.
They'd swept up everybody when they started the final climb, and now the pacemaking being set at just over a kilometre out from home, just as he's done for the last 4 years. Richie Porte launched an attack, but Jay McCarthy knew he would attack right there and jumped on his wheel.
But the recipe that Richie Porte has shown over the last few years, whenever he's attacked here, it's not the first attack that proves fatal for a lot of these riders, it's very often the second.
Great climbers can hit the attackers twice, and this is exactly what Porte was doing. He tried again, another acceleration, and this time Jay McCarthy could not follow. 1 kilometre to go, and Richie Porte was doing what he does every time he comes to the Santos Tour Down Under, and that's win the climb of Wollonga Hill. He was now about to win it for the 5th year in a row, but it would be the clock that would give the answer as to whether he would win an ochre jersey. He looked over his shoulder, the clock was started, but the time gap would say that Impey was the new leader of the Tour, but equal on time. You don't get a closer finish tomorrow than that.
Well, Daryl Impey, we had to wait a little while to find out and wait for the computer to settle down, but you are the overall leader on exactly the same time on countback.
I'm stoked. Can't believe it. I put in a lot of work for this race, but never thought I'd be in the leader's jersey, so that's fantastic. It's fantastic in Australia with the team, you know, obviously Australian team, so to deliver like this and with the help of the team, it was magical.
Well, Richie Porte, we've been calling you the king of Wollonga Hill, and today at the same place as you always attack, you came up trumps.
Yeah, I must first of all give credit to my team. They were fantastic today, as per always. You know, Rowan Dennis there really laid it all on the line for me. So, you know, I think it's probably the hardest time that I've done this climb. It really hurt today.
I'm sure it did, but it made no difference for him. He was the winner again for the 5th year in a row on top of Wollonga Hill. But the man who was equal on time with him but leading on countback, Daryl Impey. He now has to defend this for one more day.